Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nasha and we are playing KSP 1.43. So today I'm gonna send a satellite to Kerbin, Minimus and the Moon, and I'm gonna send us a mining satellite so we can scan the surface and also scan the surface for anomalies, and we will also equip these satellites with a small probe with the experimental storage unit which can store science, so we can send home science very cheaply. After all, we are already sending the satellite here and gather all the science, and this is not that very expensive to get that thing. So in the last episode I gathered some science so we can finally do this, so we will get the last part for our mining satellite here, which is this narrowband scanner. So yes, let's unlock that. And we also get the large holding tank for mining stuff. So we have all the stuff we need to start a mining operation. So let's check out the satellites. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we have the finished product of my satellite. So it has science stuff all the way here. We also have a relay, so why not put up a relay while we are otherwise gonna send a satellite in polar orbit? Why not set up a small relay at the same time? So this is kind of like a free purpose satellite. It will gather science, all this science here. We also have a let's see what it calls, experiment storage unit. That is the correct term for it, which we'll send home here. So this is the final product. We will take a little close look at that. I just gonna want to show you as this is version 4. So let me first show the other versions I made. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I decided to show the experiment storage unit here in close-up. It's not a very complicated device, but it's a really useful device. If you're not familiar with it, it's really nice because when you're out flying in space, for example in low Kerbin orbit and you're gathering science, or you have a station that you have kerbals gathering science, you can gather all the science and put it inside this experiment storage unit, and then you can send it back here. The orbit here with the help of the small engine and these small engines here, and you just have some solar panels, batteries and so on with a parachute. And as this one is so light, it's really easy to get it to orbit. As you can see, this construction I made here is weighing only about 565, and if I remove this part, it weighs 300 kilos with everything here. It's a little bit over the side, but this is the one I have attached to my mining satellite. So when we have done a polar orbit, and I'm gonna have it there for a while, and if I discover any new science, I can actually send it home for a small cost. As this has a 1.3k delta V, it means it's easy to do orbit from even the moon or Minimus to get all that science home for the full cost, and we don't have to transmit it. So that's why I've decided to do it. And another good reason for this was I really haven't used this part. So yeah, I just want to show you this one because it's an important part of my design. So let's go to the satellites now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we can see the first version I made here. Let's fold out those ones. It's kind of pretty, but as you can see, one thing I don't like about this design, it works really well. It's not about that, but I want to, when I'm sending the satellites to Minimus and the Moon, I want to send them at the same time. And this was a very tall design, so this led to the other designs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that led to the final design. I didn't have more version of this, I just have the iteration of the same version. So what I've done here is to make everything very compact. So I placed all the batteries here. I clipped these guys inside here, 8 of them. So what I did here was that I clipped 8 of them right inside here. So first I put all the tanks like this. I spin them around, and then I just got them here, and I did it like that. So that made it no room. So that led to a lot of more room to maneuver for other stuff there. Let's go back. So that was how I made all the tanks to fit here, and then I put all the batteries here. My hardest design was to incorporate the experiment storage unit here. So I had to move things around a bit and match them around a bit. I had to use number 2 number here and move my batteries in a little bit. So yeah, so the only thing I was doing with the batteries was just I wanted to do the green LED of the light here. I wanted that to show there. So that was the only thing, and then I just put the solar panels, offset them between there. I put all this science stuff close to each other here, which means that I can more or less click on everything without having to rotate my screen, and it looks kind of nice. But yeah, and I also make sure that this one can spin without clipping into things, because that wouldn't be nice. So yeah, this is a very simple design. It's more or less a science unit stuck on remote guidance units. The important thing about remote guidance units is that it is actually acting as a pilot. So what that does mean is that I actually can discover anomalies. That's why one of the reasons why I want to send a mining satellite over Kerbin, because I want to discover more anomalies, and remote guidance units can actually discover, some of the probes can discover anomalies. Those are the ones that made me find the pyramids and the crashed vehicle that I found in an earlier episode. I'm really hoping to find some interesting anomalies here. I also stuck a relay, so why not? After all, we're gonna have mining operations over the Mun and Minmus, so every relay will help, because I will probably want to use a lot of remote and unmanned units on the surface, so everything that can better our satellite network will be a great help. So yes, we have every experiment here we can get here, and we also have that one. So that's so simple and that. And this design, why I choose to go with this design is, as you can see, one of the problems with this M700 scanner, which is the broadband scanner for mining, as you can see, it's super tall. So that's why I went with the radial attached batteries and so on. I really wanted to shorten this one because we want to stack 2 of these. Maybe in the future I want to reuse this module or this design, and then I want to be able to stack a lot more of these. So this design has 2K delta V, which should be more than enough to do an insertion burn at the Minimus and the Mun and so on. So we have to try to get to make these 2 scanners to work. The mining scanners, which you scan the surface, you need to have a polar orbit, but I think that is what we're gonna do right now. So yes, and hopefully I will find some science that we can store inside our storage unit here, and we can send it back, and then we can just decouple that one, send it home. It has 1.3K range in delta V, so that should be more than enough for what we're gonna do. This one, we could probably just lose some of the tanks here, which is the most heavy objects on. Yeah, this one weighs 200 kills, that's 100 kills, and that one 200 kills, and so on. But the tanks is what is the most heavy ones on this design. I could probably remove it here because I want to launch my 2 Minimus and Mun satellites. I want to do a normal equator orbit before we transfer to Minimus and the Mun, but we need to send one in a polar orbit around Kerbin, and it's a lot less expensive if we do a polar orbit. We will launch a rocket to north. So let's put it inside a rocket, which should be easy to do. So let's start with that. Let's retract our solar panels. Okay, first of all, the coupler. That was weird. Oh yeah, let's look at It just looked weird. Okay, cool. So I think this should be more than enough for us for using a 2.5 meters fairing for this. As you can see, it's not very heavy here. So what are we gonna do when we are staging later here is gonna use the advanced tweakable, which you can find in advanced options in your game. You can see here, as you can see how tall it is. If I made this rocket taller, it means that I will be needing a much larger fairing, because those ones go a little bit taller. So yes, we have room to maneuver here, but as you can see, that's why I wanted the satellite to be so short. So let's build this fairing here. Okay, before we build our fairing, I'm gonna use another advanced tweakables here. This one will be fairly unstable inside the fairing because it's just attached to the coupler here. But we can use auto strut here, which is a invisible strut, and we will attach that to the heaviest part, which is for the moment the remote guidance units, but it will be the tanks later. So cool. So I don't think we need a lot of thought into that. I think we can get away with one jumbo tank. Okay, cool. So what we can see here with the auto struts now, it will attach to the heaviest part, which is the tank here. It will probably keep it in place. So we are more or less done for this one. So one thing I want to do before we leave here is to name our stuff. So first of all, let's name this one. Name. Configure version now. Mining satellite, relay, Kerbin, carrier. I can actually mark it with the debris right away because we don't want to keep it. So let's put it high here, which means this will name our carrier. So it will always keep the name of the one with the highest value. So yes, and I want to name this stuff so I don't have to do it later. So here we can see our mining satellite. So let's give it a good name here. And 10 is good here. So Kerbin, science, mining, satellite. So cool. So that means that when we have separated, it will get this name. When we are separated from the carrier, it will get this name because this has a lower value than the other one. And then I want to name this one too. So that will save us problem. In case we get confused or the game crashed, I can easily find it here. So we can name it Experiment ASU Kerbin Science Polar Orbit. So yes, now this one will have this name here. So it will be named after that one. So yes, now we don't have to rename it after we have separated. Then we will keep those names, which will make things simpler. Cool, so let's launch this one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, interesting enough, I found a very weird bug. While setting this one to debris right away means that it didn't communicate with the Kerbal Space Center, so I couldn't control it, which was really weird. But I managed to figure that out, so now I can control this. I set it as a ship, and now I can control my craft again. And usually we launch at 90 degrees, which is east, but this time we were gonna go north here. So let's see here. So 30 seconds until you need to circleize. So this was a nice circleization, even though it was a really bumpy ride up here. It only costs us around 500 delta V, so we will have 300 delta V, which will be enough to deorbit our launcher part back to the atmosphere, so it can get destroyed, so I don't have to manually destroy them, because I forget that all the time. And yeah, that requires some CPU power, not a lot, but everything counts, especially with my slow here. So let's see, let's circleize. I have a 10 seconds burn here. Okay, cool, so we are at the orbit around 100,000 meters. It's good enough for me. So let's deploy our fairing here. Let's decouple this one here. Cool. So let's deploy our things, which I put at an action group so it doesn't get bad here. Cool. So that is ready, so we can start using this one. Let's switch over here. And just orbit this one. This is the opposite direction, so we will not bump into each other. So let's just wait until... And I just have to put it under the lowest point, under 70,000 meters, and it will be destroyed eventually. Cool, so let's do a burn. Let's switch to this one again. Bye-bye, launcher part. Cool, so this one is active here. And so we have we don't want to decouple our experience unit here, so I will actually activate the engine manually here, just to avoid any mistakes by pressing space one time too much. So as soon as you get some science, you can transfer it over here, but I will leave this one here because we have more satellites to launch. I think we will... I've just decided to make another episode where we check out the mining satellites and check them out, because I never done it myself, so it will be very interesting. But yes, as I said, as we had remote guidance units, we will be able to spot even anomalies here under us. Cool, so let's get back to the vehicle assembly building. Cool, so let's create our Kerbin and Minmus satellite here. So let's start with removing this. We can reduce that a little bit later. First of all, I want to start a sub-assembly group here by rebooting this stuff here, so we can attach another one there. And I don't want one of those decouplers, because if you place one of those decouplers on top of one in interstation mode, it will be stuck there in the ground, so we can't launch that one. Let's check that out later. So let's first get one of the separators instead. And we want to reroute this. So that's rerouted. Science mining ASU, and what more is it? Yeah, 2K delta V, so I know how far it can go in case I want to use it again. Probe. So let's save that. Cool. So now we have saved that. So let's put it here. Delete fairing. We don't need it any longer, or not, at least in that configuration. So let's see. What did I do? Okay. Science, yeah, that's the one we want. And then I can just attach it here. We don't want to use the truss, because it will, when we launch them out, it will bump into it when we stage it here. So we remove the truss structure. So now they are stacked together here. And we want to auto-strut that the heaviest part is already has done there. And it is already strutted to the heaviest part here. So just by adding one more satellite, we are now at 3,500 delta V on our launcher part. So I think we just need a small amount of more fuel and we should be good to go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I went with the simplest possible solution. some nose cones and the middle-size boosters. This will be very cost-effective. You can probably do it a lot more fuel efficient, but this is the simplest solution, and then we'll be just auto-strutting them to the grandfather part here, so it will keep, we don't need to strut them. Cool. So let's launch this one to a low Kerbin orbit around 100,000 meters. We'll meet each other in case there is some problems, I will show you, but otherwise we will meet each other at 100k low Kerbin orbit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now remember why I like the vehicle assembling's new configured level vessel now one, because if I name this one to Minimus Science blah blah blah, all stuff on this craft when I name it here in flight will be, let me show you here, rename vessel. It will be also be, because they are stuck together, so everything I name here will have this name, it will share that name. So that's why I don't really like the new feature there, because now before I can do something I need to separate it. So let's first separate this one here. And let's control it. Use one key, it still works. Cool, so the thing is, let's make this the Moon one. Now Kerbin my science, yeah, now it has got my old name here, but yes, we can fix this. So now it's correctly named. Yeah, so I should have gone through that before I launched this one, because this creates this problem here. Let's go to this vessel now and separate the last part here. Couple. Was that the Moon one? Yes, that's the Moon one. So this one will be the Minimus one. Cool. And let's orbit this one. Let's just switch over, so yeah, it's gonna activate that one. Cool. Let's do orbit. Cool. So we are first at the Minimus one. Let's start with this one, and we will plot our course to Minimus and place it over there. We have to around 2000 delta V, yes. 1500, I thought I had 2000. Okay, cool. So I'm just checking that everything is correct here. Yes, this is the Minimus one. Cool. So let's plot a course to Minimus. First of all, we need to set this as target. It was a long time since I went to Minimus, and let's first make an inclination change, so we will have an easier time to change for it. Okay, cool. So let's make a maneuver here. Oh, now I have two maneuvers. Let's remove everyone so I don't mess this up. And maneuver. And we just want to go normal at the sending node until it's 0. There we go. So we have 20 minutes until that node, so let's point ourselves to the maneuver, and we will skip to until I need to execute this maneuver. It seems like something has happened. I must made something wrong in the staging, because we didn't get all the fuel on the tanks here, so I'm guessing that our launcher pods are somehow feeding off on our fuel. So that was a staging problem, but we have we have more than enough delta V to do it anyway, but a lot of mistakes, but that's how it is. So, cool. So now we have the inclination of Minimus, which will make our approach a lot easier. So let's put it over here somewhere. And over here. And let's start with 800. Let's make it later. Cool. Now approach. I think I will make an adjustment as soon as we have left the orbit of Kerbin. And we'll execute this and do a small adjustment afterwards here. I think it is simpler so, because I probably will be needing it anyway. So cool, so 60 minutes until I need to execute our maneuver, and let's skip ahead until I do that. Okay, 10 seconds until we need to execute our maneuver. You will see probably that on the look at the nav ball here, we'll probably shift around a bit. Because we are not exactly stable because of this one is swaying a lot, so it's shifting our weight, so we don't have a perfect center of thrust here, but I think it will work anyway. It's not that hard. I think it will work anyway, yeah. Yes, we have arrived. Cool. So let's just get a bit closer. It would be nice to have a polar orbit here from the beginning, which it looks like we can get here if I go a little bit retrograde. Cool. So that should do it. I'm just checking the orbit here. So let's warp here. Okay, cool. 10 seconds until I need to make my circularization here. I think it will go fine. So let's get ready. As you can see, we are wobbling here, but it's not that a big deal. So we will end up quite close to it, I guess. Anyway. So there we go. So we are in orbit. Let's take a peek. So yes, we will take a closer one. I think maybe we will get a little bit closer later, but yeah, it's good for now. We can orbit around here. So that's nice. Let's go to our moon satellite. Okay, cool. So here we have our moon satellite here. The engine is active, but we have the same thing going on here, where I have feeded off the fuel from our... Okay, cool. Moon is quite easy to hit. Usually you can hit it around here, a quarter of the circle around here. So yeah, it should be fairly easy. So let's put it here. Let's dial in 850. Cool. Let's go back a bit. We already have our approach. So let's see. Let's focus on the moon. So there we go. Already in place. Let's use this maneuver and we will do an adjustment maneuver so we can get in polar orbit. So cool. 22 minutes and 19 seconds until I need to burn. So let's get ready. we can see that we are actually off target here, burning here, and I think I have to redesign the mining satellites if I'm gonna be able to use them outside Kerbin orbit, where such when we are burning offset like this could be a big problem. But here in Kerbin, in the Kerbin system, it's not that big a problem because there are very good tolerances to hit things. Cool, we have orbit. Okay, we have a graphical glitch too. That is interesting. Cool. So what happens if we go a little bit anti-normal here? I'm just curious. Okay, let's make a maneuver. It's easier. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully I will have enough fuel to, after our launcher has taken our fuel, I'm not sure if we will be able to get a good orbit here. I think we need to be having send a claw and fill up my satellite here with the fuel, transfer some fuel over to our satellite so we can get a polar orbit here. But yeah, this is not optimal. So yeah, let's execute this maneuver and we will find out. Get time to burn here. Oh, big mistake. Big mistake. I forgot to point my self into the maneuver, so yes, I was just anti-normal gone there, so yes, I burned that thing. So mistake after mistake, maybe we can fix it here. We lost our approach, but if I go... Which way I'm going? So let's add another maneuver. If I go a little bit prograde. Cool. I ended up here again. Okay, so this time let's point ourselves into the maneuver and execute this one. However, this is such a small correction burn, so let's frost limit ourselves so we don't make any mistakes. Okay, cool. So we have another correction because I didn't point myself into maneuver, I was just burning anti-normal here. So I think we will be able to get it in here. We have a 25-second burn, so we can dial this in. One of the benefits when we are a little bit unstable with our weight, our center of mass, when we burn with low thrust, it's not that a big a problem because yes, the rotation wheel can gather it. Let's see. That's a good one. So let's find out how much delta V we needed to be able to circularize here. 254, that is super good news for us because yes, I was worried we've been needing more. I've forgotten how little delta V you need when you do moon maneuvers. Okay, cool, so let's warp here. I actually got some science here. That's interesting. Which maybe we will get use of our experiment storage unit. After all, we are hauling that around. So that is really good news that I got some science. Let's see here. So as you can see here, as soon as we have gotten science here, we can container collect all. So yeah, but let's concentrate a task at hand and do our circularization here. And let's meet each other in 1 hour and 24 minutes. Look at this site. We have Kerbin down there and the moon here. Such a good screenshot if you wanted to have that. It's a pretty site here. Okay, let's be a little bit late here, but it shouldn't be a big deal. I was distracted because it's quite a beautiful site here, so I was just looking at the screen instead of executing my maneuver. So let's see here. ended up here in the dark side of the moon. You can see our apogee here. So that's a good one. It's good enough for me. So cool. So we are more or less done. We have placed all our mining satellites in place. We didn't have to resort to the claw. So I was worried about that all our Delta V would be lost. And I had to resort to the claw to fill this one up so we can get a better orbit. But this is a good enough orbit and we still can move about a bit here in the polar orbits. How much science have we gathered? I'm curious. We have gathered 3 science here. Maybe we'll get more later and then we can send these guys home to Kerbin. So that was everything for this episode. And as always, thank you for watching.